right? So let's move to the first. So this here is the storyline. Give it a quick read. You are a detective, a very distinguished detective in the year 1899. That's around Sherlock Holmes time. So you're going to pretend that you are this great detective, but you have a unique ability, all right? And this is your unique ability. You can actually talk and communicate with ghosts, which is a very, very useful thing as a detective, which you all will see play off in a little while. All right, so pay attention to the storyline. We're going to move on. Try to remember it. All right, so let's start off. The only assumption today, only two assumptions I'm going to make today is that you all can add and subtract positive and negative numbers, right? You can have your calculator help you out, and you all know the different parts of a graph, and you can plot points on a graph, okay? On graphs, well, we know what we do with graph paper. We draw graphs. Now, a lot of times when you're in school and you have to draw a graph, there's usually a lot of work involved in drawing a graph. And as you all know, the graph has a vertical line called your y-axis and a horizontal line called your x-axis, okay? So you see I have my y-axis and x-axis. In graphs, even though some graphs take a lot of work to draw, there are some graphs that require no calculations in order to draw it. That is very good news because it's very easy marks in the exam, okay? So I'm going to show you some special graphs that you need to learn off by heart. Usually, when you have to draw a graph, like in Form 3, the examiner will give you an equation. I'm going to write it in yellow here. For example, they say the teacher might say, draw the graph y is equal to 2x minus 3. You notice that this equation has two letters, y and x. How much of you have seen a question like that come for like your Form 3 exam? When they ask you to draw a graph, it has two letters. It is always be y and x, right? And that's normal. That's like 99% of all graph questions. So to draw this graph, right? Remember, to draw that graph, you'll have to do some calculations. But I want you all to look on the screen now. Let's say that I ask you to draw this graph. Look at A. The equation of that graph is so simple. It's just x equal to 2. You notice it only have one letter. It only have the letter x. There's no x and no y, just x alone. Whenever you see a question like that, be very happy. Let me show you how to draw that graph. The notice over here for you to see. The line x equal to something is a vertical line going through the number on that axis. But let me just show you it. I'm going to click on it. You all see that red line? The graph x equal to 2 is a vertical line going through 2 on the x-axis. Remember, this is your x-axis and this is your y-axis. So this line is x is equal to 2. There's no calculation involved. So that means if I ask you to draw the graph, x is equal to -1, okay? That is just a vertical line going through where on the x-axis? -1. And this is how that graph would look. You all notice the blue line goes through -1 on the x-axis. Let me write it back here today. I'm gonna write it a little better for you guys there. Okay. Everyone okay so far? So when you have x is equal to something, it's just a vertical line going through that number. Okay. Easy stuff, right? So let's talk about the opposite now. How about y is equal to 3? So if x equal to something is a purely vertical line, then y equal to something will be the opposite. It will be a purely what? Horizontal line. So let me show you what C would look like. You all see this green line on top here? It now appeared. Look at it. You all notice it's a horizontal line going through what on the y-axis? 3. Do you all think you all can do the last one for me? D, like just try to imagine it. I'm not asking to draw it or anything right now. Y is equal to -2. Imagine what the answer would look like. Just imagine it and I'll show you my answer. And then you could say, hey, that is what I was imagining or not imagining. Right, so I'm going to show you the answer, right? How much of you were imagining the pink line? It was a horizontal line going through what on the y-axis? -2. Great, easy stuff, right? Now, right? When we're doing transformations, these graphs are going to come back to haunt you, all right? So here's what I need for everyone to do. You don't have to actually draw the graphs or anything. I need you to take down the notes. You see the notes in the yellow bubble and the green bubble? That summarizes what we just did. The yellow bubble is saying if you have a graph x is equal to something, it's a vertical line going through that number on the x-axis. And the green note is just simply saying if it's y equal to something, then it's a horizontal line going through that particular value on the y-axis. Take down both notes, right? If you want to screenshot it, fine with me. But for those who want to make the notes, only take down the yellow bubble and the green bubble. This is what we call special graphs. Special graphs are just graphs that require no major set of calculations. The bad news is if they ask you to draw these graphs in the exam, it's only worth 1 measly mark, unfortunately. All right, so let me know in the chat when you are finished. Don't take too much time. I think I'll just give you a minute and we're going to move on. Now we have some more special graphs to discuss, right? These are just the beginner's graphs. But let's do a little bit of storyline here. Remember, you could talk to spirits and ghosts, right? I want you all to know the reason why, right? The reason is, remember, ghosts and spirits, they hear things that are going around the neighborhood. So they might be able to hear or assist you with a crime. They're like little reporters who tells you what's going on around the community. Okay, so that is why you go to the cemetery every night and talk to the ghosts, hoping to get some help in solving crimes or preventing crimes from happening. All right. Read the green note there. So unfortunately, ghosts like to talk a lot. So whenever you approach them for information, they will rope you into a long, boring story, and you have to listen to it. Let's move on. Right, so like I mentioned, there are other special graphs you need to know. And in the exam, you cannot waste time pondering or doing calculations to get them out. Look at graph A. Look how simple this graph looks. It's y is equal to x. It doesn't even have any values. It's not like it's y is equal to 2x or y is equal to 3x. It's just simply y is equal to x. Now, to interpret that, that just means y and x have the same value. So remember, this is your y-axis. The horizontal one is your x-axis. To draw this graph, all you have to do is plot two similar points. For example, when x is 1, how much would y be? Look at this point here. When y is 1, x is 1. Y and x are always equal. So if x is 2, then y is 2. And I think you all get the drift. When x is 3, y is also 3. So if you connect these dots and you continue it, won't you get a diagonal line sloping upwards? In the exam, if they ask you to draw this graph, please do not do any calculations. It's just a diagonal line going upwards. If they ask you to draw the opposite now, let me get a different color. Look at B. B is y is equal to minus x. Notice it have a minus x. If they ask you to draw that graph, it will just go the opposite way. I drew that back. Just 1 second, guys. Right? It will just go the opposite way. So the blue line is y is equal to minus x, and the red line was y is equal to x. Okay? You notice for y is equal to minus x, x and y have opposite values. I can prove it to you. You notice when x is 1, if you take this point on the graph, when x is 1, y is minus 1. And you can do that for any point on the graph. When x is minus 1 at this point, y is the opposite. Y is positive 1. So just remember, y equal x is the diagonal line going upwards, and y equals the minus x is the diagonal line going downwards. Right? Take down the yellow note and take down the green note. You need to memorize those lines for the exam because the maths exam is very long. And whenever you have to draw these graphs, you don't have much time to think. You just have to be able to do it. Okay? When you're finished with the note, and let me know, and we will move on. All right. Oh, sorry. These are my drawings of the graphs, better versions of it. I forgot I drew it in. But anyway, let's move on. All right. So that's our first ghost that we're going to talk to. Hopefully, he will be able to, give us some assistance on solving any problems in the area. We'll have a word with him a little bit in a few minutes. All right, so since transformation, and we haven't done any transformations questions as yet, I'm just setting you all up before we reach the transformations. Remember, I told you all to do transformations, you have to be able to do something called matrices. And I know a lot of people here may not have done matrices. So I'm going to show you how to multiply matrices. You don't need to know every single thing about matrices. For today, you just need to be able to multiply matrices. So give me a few minutes here to help those who are very unfamiliar with this topic. Matrices is a very nice or neat way of organizing values. And we always put them in these brackets. You all notice that, for example, this here is a matrix. This matrix has how many values? 1, 2, 3, 4. And this matrix, the smaller one, has how much values? 1, 2. We are going to try to attempt to multiply these two matrices. Now, I know what you're probably saying. Sir is going to show you how to multiply matrices, but he hasn't really explained why we need it. You don't have to worry about that as yet. Let me just show you how to multiply matrices, and then I will show you how to apply it to graphs. Yes, this can be applied and be very useful in graphs. To keep things simple, the one with 4 values, I will call it the big matrix. And the one with 2 values, I will just simply call it the small matrix, to keep it simple. Right. So get your calculators out, especially those who have problems with positive and negative numbers, right? Get your calculators out. Whenever you take a big matrix and multiply by a small matrix, the answer we get will also be a small matrix. So how much answers am I expecting on the chat? If my answer would be a small matrix, how much answers would I be expecting? It would be 2, right? Because small matrices have how much values in it? 2 values. So I'm expecting 1 value on top and 1 value underneath. As simple as that. So I'm going to show you how to get those 2 values. Please do not get discouraged if on the first example you don't understand everything. I have multiple examples. Don't worry, I'm accustomed teaching this, and I know a lot of people have trouble with it. So here's what I need for you all to do. Write down this question and do not write it small. You're going to have to put working on the diagram. So write it fairly large in your books. And I'm going to start up. I'm going to give you 10 seconds, and then I'm going to work out the first question. All right. So here's what you want to do. When you have to multiply these 2 matrices, look at the small matrix. The small matrix would have 2 numbers, 1 on top and 1 underneath. Always circle the underneath number, always, no matter what. So everyone circle the 3. You always look at the small matrix and circle the underneath number. Right? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to pretend that this 3 gets bored and he swings up to the top. So Mr. 3 swings up to the top. So draw a little arrow. So Mr. 3 is no longer underneath. He's on top, just like the -1. Now, use your imagination for those who watch a lot of cartoons. Since you have 2 values on top now, I want you to pretend they grow legs and they begin to march across this way. So the -1 and 3 begin to march. So they begin to march, keeping the same order. So the -1 reaches over the 6 and the 3 reaches over the -3. So write -1 and 3 over the 6 and -3 respectively. Don't worry, I know some of you are scratching your heads already. I have more than 1 examples. You see these 2 values on top, the -1 and the 3. I want you to photocopy it underneath as well. So the -1 gets photocopied here and the 3 gets photocopied, right? So the top pink line gets photocopied underneath as well. This is why I ask you to write it a little bit big, right? Okay, you see working is going on it. Here's what I want you to do now. You all see pairs of numbers. 1 pair of numbers, 2 pairs of numbers, 3 pairs, and 4 pairs. I want you to circle it just like that. Each pair, circle it. And guess what you're going to do? You're going to multiply each pair because we're trying to multiply the matrices. So I'm going to put a little multiply signs. Now, I'm going to trust you all can multiply positive and negative numbers, right? But I'm still going to help you out. -1 multiplied by 6 is -6. 3 multiplied by -3 is -9. We are multiplying. 2 multiplied by -1 is -2. 5 multiplied by 3 is 15. Everyone writing those numbers. Try to do it exactly like how I wrote it on the screen, right? You basically copying the notes exactly how I have it. We're almost done. Don't worry, guys. We're almost done. Remember, we're working towards 2 answers. We're trying to get an answer on top, and we're trying to get an answer underneath. To get the answer on top, guess what we have to do? We have to add the 2 values on top. So put an add in between here, and to get a value underneath, we add the 2 values underneath. Now, I trust you all remember when a positive and a minus sign meet, you get a minus, basic algebra. So since a plus and a minus touch here, you ultimately get a minus. -6 minus 9 is -15. That's our top final answer. And to get the underneath answer, -2 plus 15 is +13. We are finished. That's the end of the question. right? All right. How much of you all could say that you understand 50% of what was just taught? I'm not asking for 100%, but you understand at least 50%. For those who had little problems, don't worry, right? All right. So here's what, right? Guys, remember I had asked you all to stop raising your hands, right? Stop raising your hands. Otherwise, I'm going to put you out of the class, right? Follow the rules, guys. If you have to send any correspondence, the chat is how you do it. Right, so let's do another example. Let's multiply two other matrices. And let's see if you understand it better the second time around. Right, 1 second. Here's the second one. Everyone take down this one. Write it big. And for those who think they could do it, just think. Give it a try now. I'll give you 1 minute. And for those who understand it, only 50%, still try it. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong. I just always tell people, you could get anything wrong in class today. I really don't care if you get it wrong. I just want you to try, right? It's better to try and get it wrong than just sit down there and wait for me to work it out, right? It's always good to see kids working out questions, even though they're not 100% sure. The attempt really, really matters. Good luck and send the answers on the chat I'll give you a minute, like I said. Let me pause the video. So like I said, we go to the small matrix and he will always be the second matrix. He's the first one, he's the second one. And the value underneath, we circle him and let him swing up to the top. So the -3 swings up to the top. These two values now, who are on top, begin to march across. So they go. So what's going to happen? The -1 is going to march until he's over the -3. And this -3 will end up over the -1. The two pink numbers, the ones who marched across, we're going to photocopy them underneath as well. -1 and -3. We're going to circle each pair. And like I mentioned, since we're trying to multiply the matrices, the two matrices, all the pairs of numbers, we are going to multiply them. Now, I think I know why some people got it wrong. I think some of you all forgot that when you multiply something by 0, you get 0. I think a lot of people made that mistake. But anyway, small thing. -1 multiplied by -3 is +3. Remember, when you multiply two minus, you will get a positive. -3 multiplied by -1 is +3 again. 0 multiplied by anything is 0. 2 multiplied by -3 is -6. Now we're not finished. Remember, we need an answer on top and we need an answer underneath. To get the answer on top, we add the two final values on top. 3 plus 3 is 6. 0 plus -6. A plus and a minus is a minus when they touch in maths. So 0 minus 6 is -6. For those who got 6 and -6, you all have it correct. For those who didn't understand it clearly before, you think you understand it a little bit better now? Obviously, as we do class, you're going to get more and more examples as we go along. Right? Right? Remember, if you're having problems with positive and negative numbers, don't worry. After class, for those who have problems with positive and negative numbers, I have some tutorials that will help you guys out. So don't be too discouraged. All right. So I've given you a 20 seconds to take down anything that you need to take down, like any corrections you need to make, and we will move on. I think I probably have one more. Right, so we have one more. I expect everyone to get this one correct now. Good luck and send the answers on the chat. All right, so once again, it's a big matrix and a small matrix. Circle the small number, the lower number, sorry, in the small matrix, and it swings up to the top. So you have two values on top now. And you begin to walk across or march across. So the -8 appears here and the 7 appears here. The two pink numbers, photocopy them. Each pair of numbers, we're going to multiply them, right? So someone asks if in the exam you need to show all of this working. Yes, you do, right? You should, right? Because number teachers want to see working, right? -8 multiplied by -1 is +8. 7 multiplied by 0 is 0. How much of you all put 7 here by mistake? Looking at the answers, I know some people said 7 multiplied by 0 is 7, right? Based on what some people sent. 0 multiplied by anything is 0. 1 multiplied by 7 is 7. To get the answer on top, we add the two answers on top. 8 plus 0 is 8. To get the answer underneath, we add the two underneath final answers. 0 plus 7 is 7. If you got it wrong, don't feel bad. I know what the mistake was. It's either you added wrong or you said 7 by 0 is 7. Fair enough, when people are under pressure, they do make simple mistakes. Right? Well, when I say circle the underneath, the lower number, I always mean the underneath number. You go to the smaller matrix and you always circle the number to the bottom, the lower number, right? So I hope that answers the question. It will always be this value here. Always, always. All right, so let's move on, right? So let's move on. Let me clear the screen here and continue with the storyline. Oh, so well, a storyline here. So it seems that the first ghost is over here. Now, here's what I want you all to do, right? And you all need to guess, okay? Every ghost is going to have to hold on to something, right? I'm going to stop the music here. Let me see if I can stop the music. And it's stop on its own. So every ghost, when you meet them, they will be clinging on to something because ghosts like to hold on to things that are most precious to them. Anybody wants to take a guess of why that ship is so important to that ghost? And note his name, eh? Make sure you remember his name. It's going to be very important later on. Anybody wants to take a guess of why that toy ship is a toy wooden ship? Why is it so important to him? And why does he cling on to it even in death? I like to see the students guess. But as we continue the storyline, it's going to become clear of why it is so important to him. Now let's move on. Hopefully we'll learn the story of Sir Mondego Santiago. Apparently he's from Spain and he was born in the year 1665. We're going to learn about his story in a little while as we go along. All right, so here's a scary, scary looking sheet, and I need everyone to take down everything on this slide. These are formulas that you're going to have to learn off by heart for the CSEC exam. It's not on the formula sheet. Eh? It's not on the formula sheet, so you have to learn it off by heart. Don't worry, I don't expect anyone to understand how to interpret these formulas. I just need you to take it down. Note how similar these formulas look. Look at this. This one is a reflection in the x-axis. You notice it have a -1 here. The formula underneath is a reflection in the y-axis. Notice where the -1 is. All of these are matrices you need to memorize by heart. Take down everything. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. That should be more than enough time, right? I don't want you to screenshot this one. I need for you all to write it down, because when you write it down, you'll get a better idea of where the ones and the -1 needs to go. Those fine details are very important. And as class goes along, I will show you how to use each formula one by one by one, and the scariness will disappear. Let me know when you are finished so I can gauge, how fast to move. I wrote this story when I was really sleepy, so if the story isn't that great, I apologize. So this is where the story is. He's telling you his story of how he ended up dying and whatnot. All right, so unfortunately, he got into a fight at the bar, and he killed someone accidentally. And of course, he ran. The poor Santiago, I hope things turned out well for him. All right, now, first things first, I don't need you to draw this. And secondly, I personally don't use a Google Classroom. At the end of class, I would explain, I would get into details, right? For the time being, if you have any questions, it has to be about the question on the screen, right? So don't stray, guys. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. In the exam, if they ask you to do something called a reflection in the x-axis, you don't have to draw this diagram. You're going to work it out by just looking at the screen. Which one is the x-axis? Do you all remember? Is it the vertical one or is it the horizontal one? Which one is the x-axis? The vertical line or the horizontal line? Correct. The x-axis, as you all remember, is the horizontal line. So let me see. This line here is your x-axis. Now, when you hear the word reflection, don't you all think about a mirror? Because most of the times, that's the most common use of the word reflection. When you look into a mirror, you see a reflection of yourself. That's using it in a sentence there. But what do you all notice about a reflection when you watch yourself in a mirror? And other than being scared, right? That's a joke, right? Well, what do you all know about a mirror? Don't things look the opposite? When I say the opposite, doesn't your left hand look like your right hand? And your right hand looks like your left hand? And you all notice that, right? Everything kind of looks, you don't call that inverted. The term is, for those who are doing physics, it's laterally inverted. It means everything on the left does look like it on the right. But the point is, the mirror kind of reverses your image. So things look the opposite. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pretend that this horizontal line here is a mirror. And you are this triangle. And you are going to pretend, so they're going to draw some eyes here and a little mouth. And you are looking into the mirror. Remember, the mirror is the x-axis, right? You all ever notice that in a mirror also, if you stand 2 meters away from a mirror, don't you look like you're standing 2 meters inside the mirror? In other words, the further you step back from a mirror, the further you look like you are into the mirror. I'm sure you all notice this, right? Most people have a mirror at home, okay? Right. So here's what I want you to do. If the examiner were to ask you to reflect this triangle in the x-axis, let's use the common sense method. The common sense method is this. let's take point A. Isn't point A one block away from the mirror? Look at it, one block. So that, and remember, each block is 2, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm counting in 2s. Would it make sense that point A would appear 2 blocks on the other side? Does that make sense? We're using common sense, because if this point is 1 point or 1 block away from the mirror, then inside the mirror, he will look as he is 1 block on the other side or inside of the mirror, right? Now, here's the thing, and you have to be real careful to get full marks in the exam. Point A appears over here, but you cannot call it point A. You have to call it A prime. You have to put a little dash. And what are his coordinates? Isn't his coordinates 4 minus 2? Do you all see that? 4 on the x-axis and 2 minus 2 on the y-axis. Remember, when you're plotting points, you have to do what? Put the x-coordinate first and the y-coordinate after. For point B, he's also 1 block away from the mirror. So on the other side, he will be 1 block on the other side. And I'm going to call him B prime. And his coordinates would be what? 8 minus 2. And what about point C? Point C is how much blocks away from the mirror? Let's count it. Starting by C. 1, 2, 3, and 4. At 4, we hit the mirror. So point C is 4 blocks away from the mirror. So on the other side, from the mirror, we have to count 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Doesn't that look like a reflection if you connect all of those blocks? And his coordinates will be 8 minus 8. Let's join it up. Doesn't that look like a reflection in the x-axis? You notice it looks upside down, and it's the same distance on either side of the mirror. And remember, a mirror does make things look the opposite. Okay? This is what I call the common sense method, where you just count the blocks away from the mirror. And it's a very useful method, and it's very easy to apply. But you all notice a pattern. Look at this. Point A is 4 and 2, and A prime is 4 minus 2. You notice that the x coordinate remained the same, but the y coordinate became the opposite. 2, which is the y coordinate, became minus 2. And you all notice that pattern for everybody. Look at point B. For point B, the x coordinate remains the same, but the y coordinate becomes the opposite. And even for point C, the x coordinate for point C remained the same, but the y coordinate became the opposite. So anytime you're reflecting something in the x-axis, if you want to save time, you can memorize that pattern. So whenever you're reflecting something in the x-axis, the x value remains the same, but the y value becomes the opposite. So if the y value was 8, I'm just saying 8, the y value alone will become minus 8. If the y coordinate was minus 5, when you reflect it in the x-axis, it becomes positive 5. That is what this note is saying. I needed to take down 2 things for me. Take down this, don't draw the graph, take down this, and take down the note associated with it. There's no need to draw the graph. When you have to work out these questions today, you're just going to use the screen to get it out. And I will tell you which notes to take down and which ones not to take down, right? So do not draw the graph. Once again, you're just taking down everything as circled in pink. Let me know when you are finished, right? To me, that's the easiest way to reflect something in the x-axis. I don't actually use the common sense method. I just memorize this note that the x coordinate remains the same, but the y coordinate will become the opposite. You think you all could do this one for me? Remember, oh, sorry, no. I'm going to show you another way of doing this same question. So it's the same question. Look at it. It's a reflection in the x-axis, and it's the same exact triangle. Now, let's just see. You use the imagination here. That you go in the exam and they ask you to reflect it in the x-axis. But the examiner says you cannot use common sense and you cannot memorize the pattern. Instead, you have to use something called matrices. If you use matrices, you're going to get the same exact answer, and I'm going to prove it to you. Look back in your notes. Do you all remember seeing this matrix that you're supposed to learn off by heart? Whenever they want you to reflect something in the x-axis using matrices, the matrices you have to memorize is 1, 0, 0, -1, right? Do you all see that in your notes? Make sure you can see it. I know it's there, but I'm just using this as an excuse to make you go back in the notes to familiarize yourself. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take this matrix, which is, let me clear some space here. We don't want too much clutter. The matrix that we have to use is 1, 0, 0, -1, right? And what we're going to do, we're going to take this matrix and multiply it by all the points. And I bet we will get the same answer. But look at it carefully. Let's take the matrix and multiply it by point A. Now, point A, I'm going to write it big here, is 4, 2. You all see it here, right? 4, 2. Whenever you have to take a point and multiply it by a matrix, you have to write it vertical. It will take a little while to get used to. So the first one is the x coordinate. The second one is the y coordinate. I think everyone knows that by now. You always put the x on top and the y underneath. Do you all think you all can multiply those two matrices? Remember, this is point A. So you're going to take the matrix and multiply by point A, which is vertical, and you're going to get two answers. You think you all can get the two answers for me? Remember, I showed you all this a little while ago. So you're going to practice multiplying matrices to reflect something in the x-axis. And unfortunately, if the examiner tells you have to use matrices, you have no choice. You have to do what he says, right? Do all the working, and guys, don't pretend you're doing the working. Let the two swing up to the top and let the two of them march across and everything, okay? No shortcuts, no shortcuts. Okay. So what's going to happen? Remember, I told you the two, this one here would swing up to the top. So you have two values on top, 4 and 2. Let them march across. So the 4 and 2 march across. The 4 ends up here. The 2 ends up here. Photocopy the 4 and 2 underneath. Circle each pair and you multiply each pair for the examiner. You multiply. 4 multiplied by 1 is 4. 2 multiplied by 0 is 0. 0 by 4 is 0. -2 multiplied by 2 is -2. To get the answer on top, we add the two values on top. 4 plus 0 is 4. 0 plus -2 is -2. Remember, a plus and a minus is a minus. Didn't we get the same exact answer? Remember, the top answer will be the x value and the underneath will be the y value. So it's really 4 minus 2. Isn't that the same exact answer we got using common sense? If we plot 4 minus 2. If you turn back, isn't that the same exact answer we got? But it's a lot more working, right? I know it's a lot more working. You're all the same, but why would I need to do matrices for something so simple when I could just use common sense? I don't make the rules, guys. If that's what your teacher say to use, that's what you have to use. All right. All right. Now, I just want you to test run it. Do it for point C. Obviously, you're going to take this matrix and multiply by A, then you're going to multiply by B. But try it for point C now. If you do everything correct, right? If you use the matrix C method, won't we get 8 minus 8? Remember, that's the answer we got in the last question. So take this matrix, take it again, 1, 0, 0, -1, and multiply it by point C. But when you're writing point C, you have to write it vertical. use the formula and see if you already get 8 minus 8. Right? So while you all do that, I just want to answer one question. Someone asks if it have any instances in this really large topic that common sense doesn't work. There are plenty instances, but not for simple questions like this, but for harder questions that common sense will not work. And if common sense cannot work because the situation is so complex, you're going to be forced to use matrices. So that's the advantage of the matrices. In a very complex situation where common sense will fail, the matrices will give you the correct answer. And that is why it's so important to know the matrices. All right, so a lot of people are saying they're getting the answer, but let's go to see. The 8 swings up to the top. So the 8 and the 8 march across, 8 and 8, photocopy. Eight by 1 is 8. 8 multiplied by 0 is 0. 0 multiplied by 8 is 0. Minus 1 multiplied by 8 is minus 8. Add the 2 values on top and add the 2 values underneath. 8 plus 8 is 8. 8 plus minus 8 is minus 8. We got the same exact answer, right? So the point of this exercise is to show you the matrices will give you the same answer as as common sense. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to do it for point B. I think you all get my point. Right, remember this point here is positive 8 on the x-axis and minus 8 on the y-axis. Okay, all right, take a 20 seconds, take down what you need to take down. I don't think there's much to take down here because I'm not asking you to draw the graph or anything. It was just to give you a chance to prove that the matrix gives you the same answer as common sense. All right, so let's get ready to move on and let's see what's going on with Sir Mondego Santiago. Remember, he had killed a man in a bar and he's on the run now, okay, for his crimes. Remember, his most precious item was a toy wooden boat. And this, I guess you all understand where the toy wooden boat came from now. When he escaped from prison, he went to tell his son goodbye, right? And it was his son who gave him the toy wooden boat. This is his son's house here. And of course, he has to leave Spain now because he's on the run from the law. And he goes to Jamaica. And that's the boats that take him to Jamaica. All right, so let's move on. All right. I want you all to do this question for me. Use any method. I want you to reflect it in the x-axis. Which method are you all going to use if the examiner doesn't tell you which method? Which one would you use to save time in the exam? Common sense, right? Because this is a very simple question. They're just asking you to reflect it in the x-axis, okay? So this one, easy to use common sense for. So I'm not going to use matrices. I wouldn't even think about matrices unless I have no choice. So whenever you don't need to draw the diagram, you just need to send your answers for the coordinates of A, the coordinates of B, and the coordinates of C. You just need to send the answers for the coordinates. So resolve it using common sense and send your answers. And then I will work it out. And we'll see who got it right and who got it wrong. Good luck. Remember, when we're using the common sense method, we realize that the x coordinate would remain the same and the y coordinate will become the opposite. So let's start with A. This line is the mirror. So obviously, if A is 1 block away from the mirror, on the other side, he will be 1 block on the other side. So his point, A prime, would be what? Minus 12, positive 2. And that makes sense. Look at it. The x coordinate remained the same, but the y coordinate became the opposite. Minus 2 became positive 2. B would be 1 block on the other side, making him what? B prime minus 2, positive 2. Look at it. Minus 2 on the x-axis, but positive 2 on the y-axis. C is how much blocks away? 1, 2, 3, 4. So on the other side, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And you will notice that the x coordinate remains the same. Look at it, it's still minus 4. But the y coordinate, which was minus 8, when it's up here now, it's positive 8. And if I were to connect this in the exam, you'll notice it looks kind of upside down. In this one, the head was downwards, and in this one, the point C is pointing upwards. Right? Remember, the new points, A prime, C prime, and B prime, you have to put that little dash here, because A prime means the reflection of A. So you have to make sure and put that little dash on top. Otherwise, a very picky examiner, like me, will deduct marks in the exam. Okay? I'm one of those teachers who finds any excuse to deduct marks here. I probably want to burn out my house and things. Yeah. All right. All right. For those who got it wrong, you think you understand your mistake? You think you understand it? Right? Like I said, even if you got it wrong, don't feel bad, right? Once you understand it afterwards, and I have no problem with you getting it wrong. All right, so I'm ready to move on. You don't need to draw the answer. You just need to understand it. Let's move on. I'm hoping the next question, the next slide has to do with Mr. Santiago. I actually forgot what happened in the story. Let's move on. Oh. Remember, he went to Jamaica to hide from the law, right? So apparently he went looking for some treasure that was hidden by Columbus. Do you all think he's going to find that treasure or not find that treasure? What are your thoughts? Right, so he tells the locals to wait for him while he explores. I don't know, this is going to turn out too good for him. All right, so now we're going to do the opposite now. Instead of reflecting something in the x-axis, we're going to reflect something in the y-axis. The y-axis is the vertical line. Now, obviously, it's going to be the opposite of reflecting something in the x-axis. You all notice the note, when we were reflecting something in the x-axis, that was the previous question, the x-coordinate would remain the same, but the y-coordinate would become the opposite. In a reflection in the y-axis, it's just the opposite. The x-coordinate will change, but the y-coordinate will become the opposite. Do you all think you all can use a little bit of common sense to send the answers? Because if this is the mirror, then the triangle is supposed to end up on this side, right? Somewhere on that side. I think we could all agree with that. Do you all think you all can send the answer for A prime, B prime, and C prime using common sense? Let's see how much people can get that out. Right? So someone asks when they'll be getting a break. I usually don't give breaks. The other teachers give breaks. Right? So the English teacher and the Spanish teacher usually give breaks, but I'm a person who goes right through. But if you need a small break, you can just run to the kitchen quick, get something to drink or eat and come back. You know? I mean, I can't stop here, right? Right? And let's see. Remember, point A, remember the vertical line is the mirror. So he's how much blocks away? 1, 2. So on the other side, he'll be 1, 2. He becomes A prime, and his point is 2, 1. B is how much blocks away? 2 also, 1, 2. So on the other side, it will be 1, 2. His coordinates is 2, 6. C, 1, 2, 3, 4. On the other side, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4. And look at his coordinates. 4, positive 2. Right? Remember, whatever distance you are from on this side, you will be the same distance on the other side. So if you're 2 blocks away from the mirror, on the other side, you will be 2 blocks away on the other side. Do you all notice something? Does the green note make sense now? Does it match up to our answers? Does it match up? For example, point B. The first one is the X and the second one is the Y, right? It's always like that, X first and then Y. You all notice that the X coordinate became the opposite, -2 became +2. But the 6 being the Y coordinate remained the same. And that is what this note is trying to say. So here's what I need for you all to do. You don't need to draw the diagram, just take down everything that is circled. When you're doing a reflection in the Y-axis, this is the pattern that you will notice. The Y coordinate remains the same, but the X coordinates becomes the opposite. All right. Right? If I had asked you to use the matrix C method, which matrix C would you use? Let me see if I could trick you. I'm going to write 2 matrices. Which one would you use? 1, 0, 0, -1 or -1, 0, 0, 1? Which matrix C would you multiply each point by? It's the second one, right? If you look at your notes closely, a reflection in the Y-axis is the one with -1, 0, 0, 1. The -1 will be on top. Okay? Yeah, you gotta be super careful in the exam. I will tell you all, when I was writing exams, right, I forgot to learn the matrices off. I forgot. So well, lucky for me that year, no questions came on transformation. So I got away. Right? But don't do like me. Make sure you learn off all the matrices by heart. You memorize the slight differences between all of them. Okay? Great, because they look so similar. Let's move on, guys. Okay? Right, so I'm not going to make you do this, right? But I think you all understand. It's the same exact question. But let's just test run 1, right? Let's say the examiner asks you to do the same question, but he wants you to do it matrixly, like he's insistent on it. It's a reflection in the Y-axis. Do you all think you all could do the working for C and tell me if you get the same answer? We're supposed to get what? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. That's all. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think if we do everything correct, we're supposed to get 4, 2. Take this matrix and multiply it by point C. Remember, when it's time to multiply it, you have to write the point vertical. The X goes on top and the Y goes underneath. Okay. You just don't say you get the answer and prove it to yourself using the matrices that you get the actual answer, right? All right, so let's just test run this to make sure. A reflection in the y-axis is -1, 0, 0, 1. And we multiplying it by C is how much? -4, 2. Remember, the x code, this is -4. The x goes on top and the y goes underneath. The 2 will swing up to the top. -4 and 2 walk over. -4 and 2 get photocopied underneath. -4 multiplied by -1 is +4. When you multiply 2 minus 0, 2 multiplied by 0 is 0. 0 by -4 is 0. 1 multiplied by 2 is 2. Are the 2 top answers? Are the 2 underneath answers? 4 plus 0 is 4. 0 plus 2 is 2. You all notice we get the same thing, right? If I write it like a coordinate, we get 4, 2. Now, I'm not going to make you do it for A and B, but you all get the general concept, right? Right, so in the exam, you will have to do the same calculations for part A, part B, and part C if the examiner were to ask you to use it using the matrices method. All right, but let's move on, right? Let's see what the next slide holds for us. All right. Oh, so for those who said that he did find the treasure, that he would find the treasure, he did find the treasure. So I guess everything is on his side. Anybody knows what? So how much of y'all do history in school, like Caribbean history? Do you all know about the Great Jamaican earthquake in 1692? That this is actually based on real life, right? Not the guy himself, but the date itself about the earthquake. That was one of the most destructive earthquakes in Jamaica. And it so happens Sir Mondego Santiago found the treasure at the same time the earthquake struck. So let's see what happens. So the whole cave caves in, right? And remember, the boat is his most precious item. So let's see what happens. Right? And that is how Sir Mondego Santiago met his end. And that is why he's a ghost now. Okay? Dun, dun, dun. All right. So guys, I hope you all enjoyed the first story. The class is not over, but like I said, there's a whole set of short horror stories. I'm not too sure if this is a horror story or just a sad story. I'm not even too sure. All right. All right, so here's another question, right? Right. So this time we want to reflect this shape in the line. Now look at this, huh? This question is not a reflection in the x-axis. This question is not a reflection in the y-axis. This question is a reflection in the line x is equal to -1. I just wrote it bigger. I'm not too sure why I wrote it bigger. How much of you all remember at the beginning of class, I showed you all this special graph? X is equal to -1. I already drew it in red here. Do you all agree, or you can tell me if I'm trying to trick you? Is this red line the line x equal to -1? Is that correct, or am I trying to trick you? It's actually correct, right? That is the line x equal to -1. X equal to -1, if you look back in your notes, x equal to a number is a vertical line going through that particular number on the x-axis. Now, even though I just said it, right? Is this line the y-axis? Is that line the y-axis? Yes or no? Clearly no, right? I mean, this here is the y-axis. X equal to -1 is not the y-axis. So unfortunately, right, I want you all to look back in your notes. Remember the reflection in the y-axis was this, I think it was 1, 0, 0, 1. Like if you were reflecting something in the y-axis, you cannot use this matrix to get out this question, you know, because this formula only works if you're trying to reflect it in the y-axis. The red line, unfortunately, you don't have a formula. If you look through all the formulas, there is no formula or no matrix that allows you to reflect something in a line y equals to -1. So unfortunately, the only way to get out this question is to use common sense. I want you all to pretend this is the mirror. So all the points are going to be measured from that mirror. For example, let me do point B for you, and then you could do A, D, and C. Since the red line is the mirror, how much blocks is it away from the mirror? 1, 2. Now, this is the mirror. So how much blocks would it be on the other side of the mirror? It would be 2. So from the mirror, you count 1, 2. You notice where he ends up? B prime ends up where? 1, 5. 1 on the X and 5 on the Y. Whenever they ask you to reflect something in fancy graphs, like a fancy line, that's not the X or Y axis, you have no choice but to use common sense, right? You think you ought to finish out the rest for me? Find C prime, D prime, and A prime, and send the answers on the chat. And I know you may need to use your fingers on the screen, right, to count the amount of blocks from the mirror, but you're paying attention to the real mirror, the red line, X equals to -1. Now, in the exam, they will not draw in this red line for you. They will just tell you X is equal to -1. It will be up to you to remember that that is a vertical line going through -1, and you will have to draw in the mirror line in the exam. Right, yeah, so someone asks, let me write a little bit bigger here. This is -7.5. D is what? -1, -5.1, and C is -3.1. So I'll write it a little bit bigger for those who are having problems seeing. Right? Let's take point A. Point A, remember, this here is the mirror, right? X is equal to -1. Point A is how much blocks away? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, until it hits the mirror, right? So that means he has to be 6 blocks on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He ends up here. This is A prime. Now, if you look at the coordinates, it's 5, 5. There's no pattern. You can't predict what the answer will be. You have to use common sense and trace the amount of blocks on either side. That's the only way I recommend you do these types of questions. For point C, how much blocks is he away from the red mirror? 1, 2, only 2. So on the other side, he will be what? 1, 2. C prime is 1, 1. And D, 1, 2, 3, 4. So on the other side, he will be what? 1, 2, 3, and 4. D prime is here. He is 4, 1. Now, looking at the answers, most people got all correct. And if you connect these points, if you got it wrong, somebody said D is wrong. Oh, yeah. Somebody, yeah, thank you. D is wrong, I made a mistake. Thank you, guys. 3. It's 3-1. Right. Pretty easy in the exam, right? And you'll get 4 marks for this in the exam, right? And roughly 3 to 4 marks in the exam for doing a question like this. I'm talking about a CXC exam, okay? And it's easy, right? And remember, you will never be asked to use a matrices method for this particular question. Because if you look at the matrices that I ask you to learn off, there is no matrices on the CXC syllabus to reflect something in the line x equals to -1, right? Easy stuff, easy stuff. All right. Now, if just let's say a lot of people are asking me to redo the entire question, right? That's not going to be possible. What will be possible? Remember, I had explained that I'm going to upload the recording of this class. And of course, I would explain where to get the recording and whatnot, right? So if you miss something in class, because people have different issues, right? So then you lose connectivity. Sometimes you just join class late. All kind of things could happen. That's the purpose of the recording, right? To go through back and see what you missed out. That's the best I can do. Right? All right, so let's see what the next slide is about, right? You think you all could do this one for me? This one is a reflection in the line y is equal to -2. Now, I already drew it in for you. Remember, y equals to -2 is a horizontal line going through -2 on the y-axis. Here's 0, here's -1, here's -2. So the red line is your mirror. Once again, don't depend on the examiner to draw the mirror for you. If he tells you the mirror is y is equal to -2, you have to remember it's a horizontal line going through -2. Now, if this is the mirror, then you know your reflection is going to end up on the other side. So everyone quickly see if you can get the coordinates of what? A prime, B prime, and C prime, where the red line is the mirror. Right? All right, so mostly correct answers coming up. Let's talk about it here. Right? So for point A, he was 2 blocks on this side. So on the other side, he has to be 2 blocks on the other side. And he ended up on the x-axis where the x value is 3, but the y value is 0. Almost the same thing for point B. He's 2 blocks on this side, 1, 2. So on the other side, he's going to be what? 1, 2. And he too is going to end up on the x-axis. And he is going to be 10, 0, because he's on the x-axis. Let's do point C. 1, 2, 3, 4. And he hits the mirror. So on the other side, he has to be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C prime, that will be how much? 10 on the x and 2 on the y. 10, 2. And if I connect that, right? Doesn't it look like a reflection? It was upside down triangle. Now it's a right side up triangle. I don't think I made any mistakes there, right? So as usual, if you think I make a mistake, you must tell me. I'm human too. I make mistakes just like everyone else, right? All right. Yes. The school website is iLoveLessons.com. It's very easy to find, right? It's just I Love Lessons. If you can't like find the exact thing, you just go on Google and type in I Love Lessons, one word, plural, and you know, it will show up on Google. But I'm sending the website on the chat. Don't reply, right? You just click on it and make sure it's working. But don't reply. You click on it and make sure it works. Okay. I'm sending it on the chat. And for those on YouTube, it's the same thing. You just look for I Love Lessons. And it's a very boring looking website. It's plain white. You can't miss it. When you go on the website, in the menu, it's very easy to understand. You will see something called Summer Classes 2023. There is no password on the website. There's no password. I've removed all the passwords. Okay. All you have to, and if there's a password, I will remove it by this evening, right? So you don't have to worry. On the website, right, there is a button called Summer Classes 2023. You just click on that, and everything with the summer program will turn up. Oh Lord, I have a little internal error here. All right, so sometimes, okay, no, it's not your guys' fault. It's just, okay, what's going on? I made a mistake. Right, everybody's trying to access the website at the same time. So that's why it's not working. But it will work once we come off the chat. When you go on the summer classes, when you click on summer classes, it's real easy. When you scroll down, you will see all the classes, the Monday 9 a.m. class, Monday. It laid out so easy, anybody could understand this. I will put the recordings of class under the recording sessions. I have also uploaded all the homework for the entire month. So for those who are interested, well, not interested, you have to do the homework. You just go in the homework section, click on it, and it will tell you what the homework is. You do not, and I repeat, you do not have to submit the homework. Remember, 600 and something people on this chat and 300 and something people on YouTube. And it's only one me. So please do not submit the homework. It's your job to go through the homework, make sure you understand it, to come prepared for class. Everybody okay so far? Right? And your parents already have the links to access everything. So if please do me a favor, don't WhatsApp me and ask me for the instructions. I already sent all the instructions to your parents. You can talk to them and they will guide you through the process. Next thing now, guys, one very important thing. The website goes down from time to time, right? It will go down. I'm sending my YouTube channel link here. I need for everyone to click on it and subscribe, because when the website goes down, you will have no way to access the recordings except on the YouTube channel, right? So do me a favor. And also, if you're on the YouTube platform, in order to take part in the chat, when we finally enable it, you have to be a subscriber. If you didn't subscribe, you can't participate in the chats, right? And the class after this, that's starting at 11:45, is the English class for the Form 2s and Form 3s. The English Form 4s and 5s is on Saturday. So please check your timetables, right? Please check your timetable for class times and whatnot, right? You need to check with your parents for that, right? All right, so guys, once you understand what the homework and whatnot is, right, and you're clear and you subscribe to the channel, you're free to leave. And guys, I hope class today was enjoyable. I know some people had some really rotten things to say about my story, but that's okay. I'll take it with grace and go. Right. Now, so with regards to the homework, all you have to do is go on summer classes when you go on the website. And when you scroll down, you will see Monday here, Monday 9 a.m. class, right? The homework is next to it. It's going to be very, very easy to figure out. Okay, guys?